Can you hear me?
Ji sir.
Okay. So today we're going to start with the new disease as we are discussing blood and tissue protozoan parasite. Previously, we already discussed about the African sleeping sickness that is caused by a protozoan parasite. We name it as the trypanosoma. And the species that was responsible for African trypanosomiasis is the Trypanosoma brucei. Then we switch to the American trypanosomiasis. That was Chagas disease. And that disease is caused by another species of trypanosoma, and we name that species as Trypanosoma cruzi. And in our last few lectures, then we started our discussion with leishmaniasis, and there were 3 different forms of leishmaniasis. One was cutaneous leishmaniasis, another one was visceral leishmaniasis, and the third one was mucocutaneous leishmaniasis. Today we're going to start with a very important protozoan disease, that is the malaria. Whether you have parasitology in your specialization or not, if you are a biologist, in that case, at least you know something about this disease, that is the malaria. Malaria is caused by a protozoan parasite. We name that parasite as the Plasmodium. And there are 4 species of Plasmodium, and although we have another species, we name that species as the Plasmodium knowlesi. And that 5th species has a limited distribution. So 4 prominent species of Plasmodium that are responsible for the malaria. The most common form of malaria is the most prevalent species of Plasmodium is the Plasmodium vivax. And it causes a fever. We name that fever as the tertian fever. That the fever, it appears after 48 hours. So normally a person who is having the signs of malaria experiences fever after 48 hours on 3rd day. That's why tertian. The most dangerous species of Plasmodium. So the most common species of Plasmodium responsible for malaria is the Plasmodium vivax. And the most dangerous species of Plasmodium that is responsible for lots and lots of death is the Plasmodium falciparum. It's the most dangerous form of it. And that also causes the cerebral malaria. And we're going to discuss that thing later on. While once again, it's a tertian fever. The fever appears after 48 hours. And then we have Plasmodium ovale. It causes also the tertian fever, and the one species where we have the appearance of fever after 72 hours, and we name that species as the Plasmodium malaria. So 4 prominent species of Plasmodium, and another 5th one is known, that is Plasmodium knowlesi, but that do not have a large distribution. And this is the world map of malaria. And here in this world map, you can see Pakistan. Unfortunately, I also have the same red color, so that. And then here you have the India, and then you have Afghanistan, and then you have Iran in the south, and all those countries. If you look here, that's the world map of malaria. If you look here, and all those red areas, they indicate the presence of malaria. If you look at here, that this is the African Horn, the continent Africa. 90% of the cases of malaria, they appear in Africa. And remaining 10%, they either dominate in Asia. And if you look at the Asia, I mean, you have these ASEAN countries, and then you have here this Indian subcontinent, and then you have the China and all those countries. And then here you can see South American countries. 90% 90% of the malaria disease is present in Africa. So it's a problem for us, it's a problem for African, and it's a problem for South American countries. Although we have a treatment against malaria, but previously the malaria becomes a very, very much significant disease during the period of wars. And on a very logical note in history, if you look at all those big events that happened in the past, most of the time it's the malaria who decided either who will going to win that war or who will be on the losing end. So very, very important disease. And we were going to discuss that even the drug development against the malaria is somewhat relevant to the wars as well. And this is the country of Pakistan, and here you have the status of malaria. These zones, if you look here, almost all areas of Pakistan, the malaria is present. You do not see any green. If you look at this legend, here in this legend, the green line indicates that there is no malaria. But if you look here, in throughout my country, in all areas of my country, there is malaria present. The only difference is that in some areas, you will have malaria that manages to persist for a longer period of time, but in certain areas, you have restricted. But malaria is overall present in entire Pakistan. So that's over disease. This is a disease that is very, very much important for us. Although we have fewer cases now, but if you look 10 years back, malaria was killing about 3 million people each year. So malaria was responsible for 3 million deaths each year worldwide about 10 years ago. And now we have about 0.5 to 1 million reported deaths due to malaria. So huge, very, very important disease. So if you look at the life cycle of Plasmodium parasite, that's a life cycle by CDC, Center for Disease Control. When a mosquito that is infected with a malarial parasite bites a healthy person, it injects the sporozoites. Hopefully you already know that this is a parasite from the phylum Apicomplexa. So this parasite has apical complex. Do not have any flagella, do not have any pseudopodia, do not have any cilia on its surface. The only flagellated form is the microgametes that has something to do with the fertilization. Otherwise, they have apical complex on their surface. And secondly, once again, it's an intracellular parasite. Few very key things you need to know. Intracellular parasite, so what kinds of cell it invades? So as far as the humans are concerned, it invades the hepatocytes during the life cycle, liver cells. And it invades the RBCs, red blood cells. So these are target cells for malarial parasite, that is Plasmodium. So when a mosquito bites a healthy person, it injects the sporozoites into the bloodstream of that person. So at any time, if someone will going to ask you that what's the infective stage of Plasmodium parasite, so it will be sporozoites. Infective stage. So the sporozoites, once they reaches to the blood, we do not know where these sporozoites go. We do not know where these sporozoites spend the next 24 hours. To this point, we do not have any confirmed knowledge that why these sporozoites, where they spend that time of initial 24 hours after they got injected into the blood of any person. So once a mosquito bites a healthy person, it injects the sporozoites into the blood of that person. And those sporozoites, they are remain in blood, and eventually after 24 hours, so that 24 hours station, we do not have a very clear information that what they do in the body. That's the missing link. After 24 hours, these sporozoites, they now will going to invade the hepatocytes, or your parenchymal liver cells or functional liver cells. They will going to invade the hepatocytes. So that's the liver stage. As this stage is outside the blood, as this stage is outside the RBCs, so we name that phase as exoerythrocytic cycle. Exoerythrocytic cycle. Outside the RBCs. Erythrocytes, RBCs. Exo mean outside. So once a mosquito injects a healthy person, it introduces the sporozoites. And these sporozoites, they will going to, once they are in the blood, they spend 24 hours in the blood, and eventually after 24 hours, these sporozoites, they will going to invade a liver cell, and now the liver cell become infected. So once they got internalized, that cell we name it as the schizont. Now we name, once that parasite got internalized, we name that parasite as the schizont. We name it schizont because there is a schizo going on there. Schizogeny means what you are going to see in that it's a multiple fission. That what will going to happen that initially a nucleus will divide into two, and then those two nuclei they will divide into four, and these four they will divide into 8, and these 8 they will going to divide into the 16, and ultimately with the single division of the cytoplasm, all these cells, you will have the emergence of 16 cells from a single cell. So multiple division of nucleus followed by a single division of cytoplasm. That's the schizogony. And eventually the liver cell cannot accommodate them, and what will going to happen that these schizonts, the cell will going to rupture, and these these cells, these parasites, they will come out. And now, once they come out, once a liver cell ruptures, they come out, then they enter into the human blood stage. Once these parasites, they are in the blood, they will going to enter into an RBC, or red blood cell. That's why we name it as the erythrocytic cycle. And now we can name it as the immature trophozoites as well. Another name for them is the merozoites. So the first stage in which the parasite is being introduced into the body of humans, sporozoites. Second stage, the parasite is in the form of a schizont in the liver cell. Once they are in the blood, we name them as the merozoites. And they are the main trophozoites, are the feeding form of that parasite. Now, what will going to happen that these trophozoites, now they will be internalized. They will going to identify an RBC, and they will going to enter into that RBC. And once they are internalized in an RBCs, these cells, they will mature, they will increase in size, and eventually they will going to undergo schizogony. Another name for it is the multiple fission. Multiple divisions of nucleus followed by a single division of cytoplasm. And ultimately, the host RBC cannot accommodate these large number of cells, and eventually the host cell will going to burst. The RBC will going to burst. And these merozoites, they will be released into the bloodstream. Now, once they are in the bloodstream, they will going to identify another RBC, and they got internalized. And now the same process will going to happen again and again. So as you see the periodic fever after 48 hours or fever after 72 hours, depends on the species of Plasmodium. What happens that as long as these parasites, they are inside the RBCs, they are not being identified by the immune system. So once the RBC burst, these merozoites, they are now outside the cell. At that time, your immune system becomes activated and identifies them, and immune system causes the fever. One response of immune system is fever, and that's why you have the fever after 48 hours, because this RBC, the life cycle of the parasite inside the RBC, either it complete after 48 hours or it's after 72 hours, depends on the species of the Plasmodium. So that cycle will remain continuous. The parasite will going to keep on invading the RBCs, keep on destroying the RBCs, and at some stage, some of those merozoites, once they got internalized in the RBCs, instead of undergoing a schizogony, now they will develop into the gametocytes, because there is a sexual reproduction going on there. And some of them, they will develop into the male gametes, and some of them, they will develop into the female gametes. And then we have the, in case of female gametes, we name them as the macrogametocytes, and in case of male gametes, we name them as the microgametocytes. So at this time, normally this is being observed that once an RBC is being invaded by a parasite and that parasite develops into the gametocytes, either it's a macrogametocytes or microgametocytes, those RBCs that are containing the microgametocytes are macrogametocytes. These RBCs, now they will be pushed towards the surface of the skin. They will push to those blood vessels that are closer to the skin. And at that time, what will going to happen? That if the mosquito, that's why the diagnostic stage, most of the time, we take blood from blood vessels that are closer to the skin. That's why that in the diagnostic stage, sometimes we see these gametocytes internalized in an RBC. There is another possibility. Sometimes we also see the merozoites inside the RBC. So as they are in the blood that is closer to the skin, so at that time, if a mosquito bites an infected person, it injects the blood. And in the blood, there are RBCs. And the RBCs, they are containing the macrogametocytes and the microgametocytes. And these macro and microgametocytes now are being injected and they are in the gut of the mosquito. Within the RBC, in the gut of mosquito, the RBC ruptures and these macro and microgametocytes, they got released. And they will going to fuse to form zygote. The zygote will going to develop a thick wall around it, and now we will going to name it as oocyst. This oocyst in the gut of mosquito, now this oocyst is in the lumen of the mosquito, lumen of the gut of the mosquito. This oocyst will now going to rupture this gut wall and move towards the other side. And there it will undergo division. And with the division of all those cells, so now you will have many sporozoites within the wall of oocyst. So once they divide, they will keep on moving towards the salivary glands of the mosquito. And there they will rupture, the oocyst wall will going to rupture, and those sporozoites, they will be released. And now, if a mosquito bites a healthy person, it will going to inject these sporozoites into the body of healthy person. And that concludes my discussion on the life cycle of parasite. So you have an infective stage, sporozoites, that is introduced to the human body. These sporozoites, they will make their way to the liver cell. Now they will going to infect the hepatocytes. Once they will going to infect the hepatocyte, now we will going to name them as the schizont, because it will undergo multiple fission or schizogony. And eventually the liver cell will going to burst and it releases many merozoites. These merozoites, now they will going to enter into the bloodstream and they will going to invade a RBC. In the RBC, they undergo multiple fission or schizogony. And they will increase in size, they will divide, and eventually the RBC will going to burst. And that releases the merozoites. Merozoites eventually will going to find another RBC, and in this way the life cycle continues within the body of human. And some of those merozoites, they will be converted into the gametocytes after entering any of the RBCs, these gametocytes now they will become microgametocytes, and the macrogametocytes they will be pushed toward the surface, those to the blood that is closer to the skin, and there they got picked up by the mosquito. In the gut of mosquito, the RBC burst, and the macro and microgametocytes they will be released. They will fuse to form the zygote. The zygote will going to develop a thick wall around it. It will become oocyst. The oocyst will going to rupture the wall of gut of mosquito and eventually move towards the other side. There it will undergo the division, and eventually you will have many sporozoites within the oocyst. So once it makes its way to the salivary glands, there the oocyst will going to rupture, and those sporozoites they got released, and now those sporozoites they will be injected along with the blood meal by a female mosquito. So the female Anopheles mosquito is the vector of this parasite. So we have the human host and a vector that is a mosquito, and mosquito belonging to the genus Anopheles. And more specifically, it's only the female Anopheles. Now, if I ask you, tell me which is the definite host and which is the intermediate host. Although with reference to vector and with reference to, we do not, we speak more about like vector and the human host, but let me, for your conceptual understanding, please tell me which is the definite host and which is intermediate host in this case. As you see, the sexual reproduction. Mosquito is the definite host because sexual reproduction is going on in the mosquito. And that concludes my discussion. And asexual reproduction is going on in human host. So there is no sexual reproduction in human. So here the mosquito is the definite host. But we do not use these words in general terms. That is for your conceptual understanding. Do you have any question? Just feel free and ask. And that's another way to represent it. You just need to remember in the life cycle within the human, there are two cycles. One is outside the RBC in the hepatocyte, exoerythrocytic cycle. Another name for it is the hepatic cycle, where the sporozoites they infect liver cells. Sporozoites they never ever directly infect RBC. They first infect the liver cell, develop into the schizon, and then schizons will divide, and eventually the merozoites they will be released into the blood. And these merozoites, now they can enter in a red blood cell and continue the erythrocytic cycle. And some merozoites, they differentiate into the male and female gametocytes. And then parasite undergoes sexual reproduction in mosquito. That is for your understanding. The parasite matures in mosquito midgut and migrate to the salivary glands. Sporozoites they are injected to a human host. Once again, it's a cycle, transmission cycle by CDC. So in the human, there are two stages. One is the liver stage and other one is the blood stage, RBC. So that is once again the component of the malarial cycle, that you have the sporogonic cycle, and then we have an infective period, the period in which the person is being infected by the mosquito, and then we have a pre-patent period or incubation period. And you know, incubation period is the time from the entry of parasite to the appearance of signs and symptoms. And then you have the appearance of signs and symptoms, and then you have the recovery. And incubation period varies along with the species. So it's between 7 to 12 days, and hopefully there will be some slide that is telling you. Now I'm going to ask you about a question. during the winter, before discussing anything else, during the winter, although we have fewer cases of the malaria, especially during the December or January in my population. Now, just during the December and January, you have fewer and fewer cases of malaria, but still there are few cases of malaria. While normally after October, we do not see mosquito. So those mosquitoes, they die due to the fluctuation in temperature. So we do not see mosquito after October. And if you think about the incubation period is normally about 7 to 14 days. It cannot be more than that. It varies with the species. So how it is possible to have an infection in January when you do not see any mosquitoes since October? Another way to say it, that why we have malaria during the winter and why we have the malaria during the extreme summer when we do not have the mosquito. Trust me, although we have very, very few number of cases, but still there is always a possibility that someone will going to experience the malaria during winter or summer, right in the middle when you do not see any mosquito for a couple of months. Please answer this question as we are discussing the life cycle. Ladies and gentlemen, please answer my question. I am waiting for your kind response. I will go into switch this question in another way. That normally in October, you have the mosquito population eliminated from your area, and then normally you have a free mosquito area for at least 4 months, and then the next generations of mosquito, due to all those eggs, they emerge once again when the suitable temperature reaches, maybe in late March and in April. I'm saying this in context of my area, so that can vary in this area. I think that is also very, very same in this area as well. So it's during the March and April, you have a next generation that emerge from egg of mosquito. So you have a next generation of mosquitoes. And at that time, the next generation is always free from any parasite. So if for those 4 months, most of the time, majority of the cases they recover, and now you in your population, there should not be any any malarial case, so where they will going to get that case and then get an infected person and bite that infected person and then ultimately transmit that infection. Because there is at least 4 months during the winter when you do not see any mosquito, and in the next season you have a next generation of mosquito that is absolutely free from every parasite. And these two things, they are being answered by the stuff like hypnozoites. And we name that thing as the relapse. What do we mean by this? That I need to switch to backslide. In case of Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium ovale, these are the two species. We have seen that we do not know why this happens. We do not know exact science why this happens. We do not have understanding of this, but we know that this is happening. That in case of Plasmodium vivax and ovale, so that's the life cycle, and let me copy it somewhere else so that it will be. Give me only 1 minute. So what happens that in some cases, in case of Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium ovale, once the sporozoites, they got injected into the blood of that person, and after 24 hours, once they reaches to a liver cell, hepatocytes, and they got internalized in an hepatocyte. Stop. So once a mosquito got injected, mosquito injects a Plasmodium parasites through a human host. And these sporozoids, they are introduced into the blood and then they make their way to the liver cell. And eventually they reaches to a liver cell and they got internalized in a liver cell. Instead of becoming a schizont, now they will going to be silent. They will now will be going to dormant. And they will no longer be active, and we name them as instead of converting them to be differentiated into a schizont, they differentiate into the hypnozoites. And hypnozoite is a dormant stage. Dormant means it's not active. So it will not increase in size, it will not undergo any division, so it will remain as it is as hypnozoite, and it can spend months and months in a stage of hypnozoites. And at any time, and people, they relate it with stress and immune system and all that stuff, but to this point we do not have the exact understanding that why this is happening on. That at some stage, maybe in fewer months, these hypnozoites, they will active again and they will convert it into a schizont and then undergo multiple division, undergo schizogony, and then eventually it will start an active life cycle. So there is a possibility that maybe a person got infected by a mosquito during the November, maybe in October, maybe in September. And those sporozoids, once they enter into a liver cell, they got converted into the hypnozoids. And they will remain dormant for maybe another 4 or 5 months. And after 4 or 5 months, maybe once again they start an active life cycle. That's why due to the relapse, we see fewer cases of malaria during extreme winter and summer when we do not have any mosquito population. And this happens only with Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium ovale. And that relapse explains the reason that why we have the malaria during the winter and summer. And how it's possible that the next generation of mosquito will going to get an infected person in the population. While in case of, I think it's not written here, while in case of Plasmodium falciparum and Plasmodium malariae, we see another thing. We do not see relapse, but what we see is recrudescence. Let me write down recrudescence. And that happens in case of Plasmodium falciparum and malaria. Other two species. And we do not have lots and lots of information regarding the Knowlesi, that is the fifth species that has a very limited distribution. And it was known in recent years that there is a fifth species.
सर का इंटरनेट दोबारा से खराब हो गया, तो सर कह रहे हैं कि अब आप क्लास लीव कर रहे हैं, लेक्चर एंड हो गया।